Okay, well, I have Emily Peyton on the other end. Hi, Emily.
Hello, Steve.
Thank you so much for
How are
doing
you?
this. I'm okay. I wanted to explain this concept of the spiritual economy the way that I originally conceived of it, and I know we've already talked about it, so feel free to jump in and share your notes and your ideas, whatever you want to say.
All right.
I call this Notes on a New Economic System, and I call it the spiritual economy. Everyone has some idea of what the spiritual economy is before I even describe it. Many people think it is karma. Others think it is just sharing freely without any expectation of return, trusting the universe to provide. The interesting thing is, we all realize that the existing economy is lacking in spirituality. Some people try and justify it, yet in their hearts they know the truth. It falls far short of a spiritual ideal. Ideally, we probably wouldn't even need an accounting system. We would all share appropriately according to need and ability. Some say that human nature changes slowly, if at all. But perhaps we don't need to change human nature at all. Perhaps the existing economic system is itself trying to change human nature. And all we need to do is create an economic system that is better matched to human nature. And what would such a system be like? Well, it seems that our nature is abundant love and caring. What mother would not give her life for the life of her child? That's love and caring. That's abundance. Firemen, police, and soldiers are willing to give it all for their families, friends, and people they don't even know. We have abundance. We just have an economic system that creates scarcity. Something like 90% of the assets are owned by 5% of the people. Why such disparity? Are these people really that concerned with their future well being? Perhaps, but perhaps the economic system allows and, in fact, encourages greed. It's not the quality of your relationships that counts, but the quantity of money you possess. Yes, money is what matters, and people come second. Profits for the corporation rather than prosperity for the individual. That's what the existing economic system preaches to us. Isn't it natural for us to care for each other? Isn't there more joy in making someone else happy rather than piling up storehouses of wealth? Isn't that what Jesus talked about when he mentioned the rewards in heaven? The concept of karma comes around again, so we shall call the money of the spiritual economy karma credits. And just like in real life, each person's karma is individual and owned by them. That's a very important concept, by the way. The idea that the credits in the spiritual economy, as I have conceived of it, are your credits, my credits are mine, and yours are yours. And there are no universal credits. As soon as you get into this universality of credit, you lose personal responsibility.
Hmm. Hmm.
Now,
May
you,
I
yeah, go
go
ahead.
ahead?
Go ahead.
I wanted to comment on a couple of things that you said. Um, you mentioned how the accounting system creates scarcity, and a s
Scarcity.
another
Yeah.
another phenomena that many people have noticed is that when you freely give away or freely give, then the universe reacts by returning uh, the same in a different kind. So in other words, if we didn't have to account for or bean count, and we were exchanging without having to count beans or money, the uh, the concept is and the belief is that people would experience abundance, and it would be in a far more interesting way because the the mystery of the universe would create the return of whatever you've given away, which I found is true when I you can test this by leaving $5 somewhere and noticing that it comes back to you because you've created that expectation. So I just thought that was interesting. Also, I wanted to say that actually the numbers I've heard are that 98% of the wealth are owned by 2%. And what's even more specifically interesting is that 2% and others create the money that they say they have. So they invent the money and the wealth that they have, as well as control others through that invention.
Okay, well, I want to get back to this, but I wanted to comment on one thing you mentioned, and that is that the expectation thing. And I think trust is better than expectation, and maybe that's what you're talking about there.
Yep,
Trusting
you're
the
absolutely right.
trusting the universe to provide what you need. And if you come from a biblical perspective, and I do, uh, you would say you trust in the Lord, you trust in
Right,
God, and whatever God is, the idea is you don't have to make it happen. It will happen because it is God's will. It will be
right.
it'll be balance, in other words.
Well, the studies about how we create a vibration and create our reality by the vibration that we put out show that if we have the faith and the patience to allow it to manifest, then whatever we want will. But in the meantime, too often we're thinking too much about what we don't have, which also creates that reality.
Well, let me finish reading this because I only have 15 minutes of recording at a time for the
Okay.
screencasts. Um, okay, the concept of karma as far as karma credits. The spiritual economy is an economic system that does it all: barter, currency, credit, stock exchange, and a relationship building network. In some sense, it is the relationships we make that matter most. That's a very important point, by the way, is that
It's true.
this is a relationship building system and a virtue building system. Okay, this is what we are remembered for: our relationships, the things we have done for and with others. These are the stories that live on in the hearts and minds of our children. Stories of courage, valor, caring, and compassion. How does it work? Each participant in the spiritual economy has their own currency. They can create it at will as much as they want and give it to anyone. It's electronic, you understand. Even to someone who does not participate. They can give it through the World Wide Web using a form that sends an email message to the recipient. And then the idea being that you can accept the currency and it becomes part of your account. What can someone do with your credits once they receive them? They can trade them for goods or services with anyone who honors your credits. They can always go back to the person who gave them the credits and ask for something in return. It could be services, which would be time, or products, software, computers, televisions, whatever. Or it could be someone else's credits. This is where it gets interesting. You might collect credits from lots of different people so that you always have a place to stay when you're traveling around the world. You might just want someone's credits because you see that there are many other people who want that person's credits. There is no obligation to honor credits by doing anything. In other words, there's no expectation or giving anything in return for them. It's all cooperation based because that is the nature of humanity. We survive because of cooperation. Otherwise, we would have blown ourselves off the face of the earth long ago. Rather than striving for wealth in terms of numbers, people will work for a good credit rating. That means that you should try and get the good graces of many different people, especially those who have a high integrity rating. When you rate someone on how satisfied you are with their credits, you get to rate your rating in terms of how fair they think it is. And if you don't judge them, they can't judge you. There is, therefore, an incentive not to judge, or at least not to judge badly, unless it's really necessary. If you continually judge people badly, other people will not want to deal with you, just like in real life. The people who do well in the spiritual economy will do those things, who do lots of things for others and accept credits in return. And when you hold someone else's credits, you are in demand, and people will do things for you. So you can collect credits, basically.
Can you clarify one thing? You said that you can take somebody else's credits. In other words, this scenario popped up, and I want you to correct me if I've got it wrong. That potentially you could have somebody who's working very hard and gets these great credits, and you could have somebody else who takes the credit for that in a sort of a non-spiritual way.
Steals the
Could
credit?
that happen? Could that happen?
Well, I think the way I envision it is you would see somebody who was doing something good, and you would give them some credits. That you have an abundance of credits, so you have nothing to lose, really. And I mean, you shouldn't. We shouldn't think about money in terms of, oh, I'm losing my money. We should think about it in
No,
terms of, I'm enriching other people with my money.
right, but I got confused when you said you could use other people's credits in order to travel around the world or something. Why would you need other people's credits? Wouldn't your credits be substantial
Well,
or
in
enough?
other words, there's a sense of honor to honoring your credits. So if you've issued credits, the right thing for you to do is to honor them with whoever holds them, if you can.
Right, but you don't ever take somebody else's credits as your own.
What do you mean?
I just got the kind of the picture of you needing somebody else's credits in order to go travel around the
Well,
world.
if you want to stay with that person, that would be a good thing to do, is to get some of their credits. Otherwise, if you think that you can just automatically assume everybody in the world's going to accept your credits, well, they may not want your credits.
Oh, well, yeah, but yeah, I mean, it's a, that's the interaction between the people.
Yeah, I mean, some people may say, yeah, I'll take your credits and you can stay here. But other people may say, well, go get some of my credits from the market, and then I'll let you stay here. In other words, they'll honor their own credits, but they won't honor yours because they don't know you.
Yeah.
So it works both ways, depending. Let me finish this because I've got exactly 3.5 minutes.
Okay.
Rather than striving for wealth and physical number, I already said that. You work for relationships. Okay. When you join the spiritual economy, you sign an agreement specifying that you understand and accept that the credits have no inherent value and you cannot force anyone to do anything for you. This is very important. The spiritual economy operates outside the legal system of all governments and relies on individual integrity for its success. It operates on cooperation of free people. There will be spiritual economy angels who go around and do things for people who they see are doing things for others. The spiritual economy gives people a way of getting the recognition they deserve and a way of fulfilling their karma and resolving personal issues they have with others. People will have an incentive to work it out because it reflects poorly on both the giver and the receiver if there is no satisfaction in the relationship. Trust and right action are reinforced, and dishonesty and greed are discouraged. It's so beautiful. The spiritual economy enhances cooperation, sharing, trust, faith in others and yourself, and personal responsibility. Everything is in the open, so it makes it honest and clear who is doing what for whom. Everything's open. Everybody can see everybody's transactions. You can see who holds whose credits and so forth and so on. So it's really kind of like Facebook, except with credits added, so that you can see who's relating to who and what the relationship is about and so forth. I'm just adding that on. I think we don't need government to have money. We can have our own money.
But I think you ought to put in the full faith that is backed by not only the trust, but the faith, just like regular money is.
Right.
The faith that makes money work, so it's the faith.
But in regard to regular money, it's violence that makes it work. There is a gun behind regular money. We have faith in violence with regular money, but with the spiritual economy, we have faith in peace. I only have 1 minute, 20 seconds. Let me read this list. On the spiritual economy side, you have love-based and money, fear-based. Spiritual, enlightened altruism, money, ignorant greed. Spiritual abundance, money, scarcity. Spiritual bottom-up, which means people first. And money, it's always top-down, governments first. Resolves personal problems on the spiritual side, creates personal problems on the money side. Openness on the spiritual side, secrecy on the money side. Honesty, dishonesty, and you can see the rest of them here. Do you have any to add? Because you only have 45 seconds and this recording's done.
No, but I thank you for this work. I think it's instrumental in going forth and recreating the paradigm that we want to, particularly in terms of the peace force, of the world peace force.
Yeah, we need an alternative force in human affairs other than money, because money is turning things in a bad direction.
Well, yeah, rather the abuse of it. Yeah, the abuse of money.
Well,
Yes.
I think it's money itself. You say it's the abuse of money, but I think money has an effect on our mind that is not good. It gets
Possibly.
It gets into control thinking. And then it was when you have the money, you think you're in control. We're done with this recording, dear.